Hello there and welcome to today's video. It's going to be quite a rambly one today. I'm very aware, I think it's 3 weeks since I last uploaded a video, so I was just conscious that I wanted to pop on and say a quick hello to you all today. I'm still not doing great. Basically, well, I don't know if you've seen the last few videos, but I haven't been well recently. I was in hospital for a hearts related thing, which is fine now, but I've been having issues with HRT, and it's all led to an MCAS flare, which is mast cell activation syndrome. So I've been dealing with a hell of a lot of pain over the last few weeks. Basically, my worst symptom of MCAS is occipital neuralgia, and it's essentially the nerve that feeds over your scalp, and it's extremely painful. It's like being zapped with electric shocks kind of all the time, and it's persistent as well, and it affects my sleep and all sorts of stuff. So it's been deeply unpleasant. So I've just not been able to make a video really, which has been really eating away at me, if I'm honest. I am working on a video on where it's kind of art related, special interests related in the background, but it's taking some time to put together. So yeah, it's going to be a little while before that one's ready to post. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about something that was kind of positive that happened yesterday in seeing my doctor. So basically, I had booked in with my doctor a while ago just to check out a mole, which was fine in the end. But I took it upon myself in the moment to talk about this occipital neuralgia, and I will usually never mention MCAS to my GPs because I have had just the worst gaslighting about this condition in the past. So I am very, very reluctant to talk about it unless it is, well, urgent, really. So to give you bits of history in how this condition has been dealt with by previous GPs, I first had occipital neuralgia around 7 years ago, and I just kept going back to the doctor because it is all consuming. It's so painful a condition, but I was consistently fobbed off. I was told to take painkillers like paracetamol. I was told to just put tiger balm on my scalp, and yeah, I was just dismissed each and every time that I'd see a doctor about this pain, really. And because of all this, well, mistreatments, I eventually had to see a private doctor, I think around 2 years ago, and they diagnosed MCAS on the spot, really. They said it was very evident and very obvious that this was what was going on, really, which was a big relief. You know, it was years of torments, and finally somebody was taking me and my condition seriously. And it was a little while ago, a few months ago actually, I was just looking at my NHS accounts. Basically, the NHS accounts that we have here are just electronic access to our medical records, or at least some of our medical records. And I was looking back at one of these appointments that I had with this awful GP that I had originally, and she had attributed some of my MCAS symptoms to a dissociative disorder. So basically, I had been given a diagnosis, or I think a misdiagnosis, of a dissociative disorder years ago. I wasn't ever told about this, but for whatever reason, this has been hanging around on my records, and this is something that I will talk about in a separate video about autism and mental health. But yeah, needless to say, I was really shocked to see that MCAS symptoms were being put down to a dissociative disorder, and this is something that I am going to chase up with my my GP practice at some points. I'm annoyed at myself that I haven't done it already, but this is something that needs to be corrected on my file. But I think it just really evidences why it's so difficult for autistic people to be taken seriously by their doctors and their GPs, because, well, in my experience, I've just been gaslit so much, and this is something that commonly happens with autistic people, and to the point where they will do anything to avoid going to see their GP. And that certainly rings true for me, because I will do anything to avoid talking about MCAS to my NHS doctors, because I just hate it, because I know, or at least I suspect, that I won't be treated seriously. However, I was shocked to the core yesterday when I happened to mention to this GP that I was having dreadful pain, and I thought it was related to my MCAS, and what I would like to do is to try a H2 antihistamine, which is famotidine. I think it's called Pepcid in the US, but it's a different kind of antihistamine that targets the stomach, so it also works as an antacid. And I was just expecting her to be so dismissive of everything that I was saying, but she was completely the opposite. Firstly, she knew what MCAS was, so I didn't have to explain the condition. She was really interested in what I was saying, and she was, just really curious about how I'd come to the conclusion that I'd like to try famotidine. And she said she was really interested to hear how this went in trialling this medication, and I was completely blown away. She also said that if it didn't work, to go back and see her, and we'll investigate other meds that might work for me. And I am just in shock, because it was the total opposite of the experience that I was expecting. However, it is still a really frustrating experience as a whole, because I had to go out of my way to go and get a private diagnosis, which comes at a huge cost as well. So there is a lot of work for the NHS to be doing in catching up with MCAS, both as a diagnosis and how to treat it. But it's nice to see a glimmer of hope out there. So I just thought I'd hop on and give a little kind of positive story today for those of you specifically that also struggle with going to see your GP, as I know many of you do, because, well, historically, autistic people find it really difficult. It's a thunderstorm out there now. I love thunderstorms. Also, I'll talk about the elephant in the room, being my hair. I've spoken before how I always try and look the same on YouTube, really because I struggle with the idea of being recognised outside of my channel, so in the real life world. For obvious reasons, I cannot really touch my scalp at the moment because it is so painful. But while I've been away, I have been kind of reframing this idea, or at least being so rigid about this idea of me looking the same on YouTube all the time, because it's almost like I've come to a little bit of a realization that if I were to be recognised out in the wild, which I have done before and I didn't like it, but anyway, if it is by an autistic person, I've kind of realised that they're the least likely of people to want to say hello to me, or whatever it may be. So I am allowing myself to be a little less rigid with this rule. Well, certainly in the short term anyway. I might change my mind a little later, but it means that I'm going to be a little bit more flexible about how I appear on YouTube. So yeah, I think I'm always going to be wearing kind of similar clothes, etc. But I'm not going to be quite as rigid, because I found actually it's kind of hindered my creativity in some ways, because some days I think, oh God, I'd like to make a video today, but I can't be bothered doing my hair. So yeah, I'm just going to be a little bit kinder to myself. So maybe this bout of occipital neuralgia is actually giving me a bit of a life lesson, or a YouTube lesson, if you will. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out anyway. So I suspect this video has been quite rambly, because there's a lot of information that I wanted to kind of get out in one kind of anecdote or one story. So apologies if it doesn't make sense. Above all, I just wanted to hop on and say hello, really, because I'm really missing everybody. It's so nice to see you know, your comments every week and hearing about what you've been up to, etc. So yeah, above all, it's really about just saying hello. So I think going forwards, because I can't guarantee how I'm going to feel from week to week, I can't promise to make weekly videos at the moment, as I'm sure you'll understand. Very many of you have been so kind in recent comments by saying, you know, Lizzie, just look after yourself. It doesn't matter when you upload. And you know, I'm finally listening to that. So thank you for all of your kind words of support and advice recently. But I am allowing myself not to upload every week if I don't feel able to. So I'm not sure when the next video will be. I am aiming to upload on Fridays. Well, that's my plan anyway. I might change upload days as I go along, until I can get into kind of like a regular pattern again. But yeah, that's how it's going to be for now. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. I don't think there's anything else I need to say at the moment. But anyway, I hope you're doing well. Let me know in comments what you've been up to. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Give it a like if you got this far, and I'll see you again soon-ish.